This will be part 2 of my record collection. I'm actually gonna get down here and we'll just start off right here. So first off, we have Man on the Moon. This is Kid Cudi. So this is one of my favorite records. That one is pressed in standard black. This one right here is the Vinyl Me Please edition, and it's much nicer. We've got like a brown Galaxy and then a purple Galaxy. So this is the purple. It looks more like black. I'm trying to get the light to reflect. I don't know. Purple is in there, and here's the brown. This one will be easier to see. But yeah, it's got like this cool like black brown marble effect, which I really like. I love this album. This was one of those, like, I don't want to say high school albums, but you know, that kind of era for me where it was just, you know, on a lot. There's a lot of hits and great songs off of this. And what I love about this album is it was a bit of a pioneer as far as music goes for hip hop, because it talks a lot about men's mental health, which is a little bit more common in music at this point, but I think for when it came out, that was something that was definitely unique and something that not a lot of artists were really talking about at the time. So very special album. Next one up, we've got Man on the Moon 2. It's a pretty big debate if it's this or the first Man on the Moon that's the better album. I think I maybe prefer the first one just a little bit, but part 2 of the Man on the Moon series is super solid. That one is in black. And then we got part 3 of the Man on the Moon. And I remember when this came out just a few years ago. It was in, like, I want to say December 2020. But honestly, I didn't really expect it. It was kind of a surprise for me. I don't know if there was really a rollout. I obviously didn't pay attention if there was, but really happy to get that album and see a conclusion to the trilogy. And it has a really cool, like, kind of happy, uplifting ending for Kid Cudi. So I love that album. That one's in standard black. This is MF Doom Special Blends. Backside's pretty basic. I do like this jacket though. It has like this, it's not foil, but this material is like kind of reflective. I don't know how well that's going to pick up on the camera. If you're unfamiliar with what this is, it's just a compilation album of MF Doom's beats with various guest artist verses on here. Some of the verses are even reused from other like songs and whatnot, so it's nothing crazy. It's more of a collector's item if anything, but still a fun one to have. And I'm a huge MF Doom fan. He's probably my all-time favorite artist, or certainly up there in like the top 3, and so it's just kind of cool to have this one and be able to spin it every once in a while. And then now we're getting into the Doom collection here. This is Operation Doomsday. This is the very first album under the MF Doom moniker. And this right here is the Record Store Day edition that just came out last month for Black Friday. It's this really cool like gold color pressing. It looks clear on the camera, but it's more gold in real life, and it's got like red splatters. So it's pretty sweet. Sounds great too. So I was really happy with the way this one turned out. I'm not going to get it out, but I do also have just a standard black pressing of this album as well. And I'll actually show you this since I have it out. This is the gatefold. As far as I'm aware, all the other pressings were just like a standard sleeve. They weren't gatefold, so it's kind of cool to get that artwork in the middle and have a different version of the album. If you haven't listened to this album, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best one to start with for MF Doom, but it is a great album and there's a lot to take from it, and certainly one of the enjoyable underground classics from the 90s. Up to this point, I don't know that he'd fully embraced the Doom character quite yet, but I think that there certainly is a lot of his roots and kind of foreshadows what was to come next. So this is Victor Vaughn's Vaudeville Villain. This is just another MF Doom moniker. I believe this came out in 2003. This is on standard black. Nothing too crazy about that one. What I can say is it's a great rap album. You know, I think a lot of people consider that to be like the rapper's rap album of MF Doom. Less focused on the crazy witty, you know, rhyme schemes and more just straight rapping, which is kind of cool. And I love the intro on that. It's like this cartoon sample blend that is just really cool. This also came out in 2003. This is King Ghidra, Take Me to Your Leader. And I'll just pull out just the top. It's got like that nice foil stamp right here. It's reflective. I'm not sure how it's going to show up on the camera. This is on red, kind of like a translucent red color. And this is much more production focused, I think, compared to some of his other albums. It was under the King Ghidra moniker, and while I love that album, it's got a lot more guest verses than actual Doom appearances, and so again, it's kind of more of a collector record in my personal opinion. It's still a fun album to listen to, nothing wrong with it. It's just I wish there was a little bit more Doom on there as well. So this next one I do have 2 copies of. This is Food by MF Doom. This is the 20th anniversary edition. Just came out this year. I'll actually bring that one back around. And then this is the original version. I was gonna say original pressing, but yeah, a little bit different. I think I still prefer this cover, just because it is the original, and I think that this is an iconic cover. It's definitely very Doom inspired. I mean, obviously he's on the front, but it's Doom. If you know the vibe, then this is it. So this one's on a pink and green disc, and well, there's 2 discs. One's pink and one's like a baby barf green, almost like this color right here. So yeah, this one's pretty cool. This one right here, I will actually open up, although it's always a pain in the ass to put back away. And so, actually, you know what? I'm not opening this up right now. I'll just tell you. This is on a really cool picture disc, and I may have to make a separate video about this just because the packaging on it is insane. You can look up close, there's quite a few details, a bunch of little Easter eggs as well. On the back side you got like King Ghidra, the dragon in the back, you got Zevlov X, which was Doom before he was Doom. And then just a bunch of other little things. The menu too is also the song names. So super nice packaging, super sturdy. And then this also came with a 7-inch picture disc, which is like a little cookie, and it has hoe cakes on there. So yeah, I mean, I love this album. already, and so it was really nice to get such like cool packaging and unique reissue of this. So yeah, that's food. This next one I have about 4 copies of, and there is definitely a reason why, so I'll go over that, but we're just gonna cover this quickly. So this is Madvillainy. I'll just kind of give you the basic story of this album. So initially I bought this record. This was the first pressing that I bought. This is just a standard reissue. But yeah, just plain black, and it became my favorite record very, very quickly. So last year, got myself this pressing as a Christmas present. This is the Vinyl Me Please edition. It's also just in standard black. Right there, it's numbered. It's 1064, I believe. Yeah. And really not too much different with this. It has like a jacket, like book on the inside with the lyrics, and then it's their remaster through Vinyl Me Please. So I mean, it's the same album at the end of the day, just a little bit nicer of a pressing, and so I just wanted it because I love the album. So that was the second copy I got. And then this year, last month, they put out a 45 RPM speed remaster of Madvillainy as well. And this one, of course, is the same album. This is just on 180 gram, 45 RPM. So the LPs are a little bit nicer, better sound quality, and it's considered like the audiophile version. And then this last one is actually different. It's the Madvillainy demos. This is pretty cool as a collector's item. It's not one that I probably will spend very often. But again, because I love the album so much, I picked this up. And basically what it is was back in 2002, I think it was 2002, Madlib, he's the producer on this album. And he was in, I want to say Brazil, and his hard drive or his like cassette tapes or whatever he had Madvillainy on ended up being stolen from the hotel he was staying at. And so the album leaked super early, like 2 years before it even came out. And for a time, they weren't even sure that the album would be released. Fortunately it did, because it's a great album. But that's the demo tapes with the original songs and cuts before it was finalized. So it's kind of cool to listen to different versions, and like the track listing hadn't been put together in order yet, so that makes it kind of unique. And like I said, I'd rather listen to the original version and what actually ended up coming out, but that's just a fun little collector's item to have. This next one is Danger Doom. This is Danger Mouse and MF Doom. And what's cool about this one is this jacket is like, you can swap out the colors. So got the blue one right here. We'll just swap this out. So flip this one around. So it's gonna have like the red front. And we can put that straight in. And now we've got a red cover, which is pretty sweet. So this album is a fun one. It's a little bit interesting. It's like, there's an Adult Swim cartoon. I think it's called like Aqua Teen Hunger Force or something like that. I've never watched it. It looks a little bit stupid to me, but this is like loosely the soundtrack for it. Great songs on here, but it has like a lot of skits from that TV show, and some of it's a little bit annoying in my opinion. Still great album, and a lot of good moments on here, but I would not put it necessarily at the top when you have albums like Madvillainy, Food, Operation Doomsday, and a couple others. So But yeah, still fun to have, and I do get a kick out of it when I spin it sometimes. So that is the next one. And then we also have Born This Way. I'm pretty sure that that's what it's called. I can't remember if it's Born Like This or Born This Way, but MF Doom's, in my opinion, this was like his last great album. This one's on Standard Black. I do like the jacket quite a bit. It's textured. It's got like foil stamps, so you'll see the reflection, which is pretty cool. But yeah, not much to say on this record, to be honest. It feels like a more mature Doom. He still has kind of all the cool, witty, one-liners and mic drop moments and things like that, but definitely a different vibe. It's a little bit darker too, I would say, and it's just, yeah, I don't know, just different one for sure. This is Nerubian Doom, also Standard Black. I don't listen to this one very much. Again, it's in my collection just because I love Doom. And this came at a time when Doom was in the UK. Stuck there. You couldn't get a visa back to the United States, which is a whole different story. And so in the meantime, he created this album with Bishop Nehru, who was a young MC in the UK. And I think one of the reasons why I don't love that album like I do the others is because Doom has some pretty limited participation. He's definitely there, but not on every song. And so it's a little bit, like if you're looking for a Doom album, it's a little bit sad and disappointing, but still some good moments on there and some fun production. And this is Super What, Czarface MF Doom, another Standard Black pressing. Great production from Czarface. They are a duo. I believe it's Esoteric and Inspected Deck. I'm pretty sure. I honestly haven't looked too much into their music, but that was one of the first MF Doom records I bought before I really dove into his discography. And it's a fun one. I think that there's some good moments on there, but again, not my favorite from MF Doom. These next two are from the same artist, so go ahead and start with this one first. This is Oxymoron by Schoolboy Q. And I love this record. I think that this is like one of the best 2010 records, and it definitely has a lot of crazy moments on there. It's a little bit chaotic and not unorganized, but just kind of all over the place in terms of the production. You get a lot of unique beats and styles, but Schoolboy Q kills everything as far as I'm concerned. So some crazy 2010s anthems on there. Gangsta, Collard Greens, let's see, Hell of a Night, Man of the Year, Hoover Street. Yeah, if you haven't listened to that album and you're a 2010s fan, that's one you should definitely check out. And then his more recent release here is Blue Lips. This came out earlier in 2024. For a lot of people, this is their hip-hop album of the year. I don't know if it would be my number one, but it's definitely worth listening to. Just on like this cool blue transparent disc. And yeah, I like this one quite a bit. A lot of replayability. In a lot of ways, I'd say it's similar to Oxymoron, except that you get a lot more maturity from him and introspection, which is kind of cool. Coming from his past music projects, he's had his moments of maturity, but I think that this is where he really grew up quite a bit. While we're on the TDE, We'll go ahead and go through the Kendrick stuff. Good Kid, Mad City. All I can say about this album is it's genre defining. If you have not listened to it, what the hell are you doing, man? Definitely listen to Good Kid, Mad City. That was one of the records that put me onto conceptual music and really made me reconsider, instead of just skipping around and pulling my favorite tracks from an album, paying attention to listen to the full track list front to back in order. And yeah, I think that it just holds a special place in my heart, and I know a lot of other people's as well. This is the follow-up to Good Kid, Mad City. We got To Pimp a Butterfly. Also genre defining for a lot of people. This is Kendrick's best record and also one of the best hip-hop records, if not the best hip-hop records of all time. It's up there with like Illmatic and Ready to Die and some of the other ones. So I think personally I prefer Good Kid, Mad City just slightly over this one. That's just because it's a little bit more casually listenable. TPAB has some heavy moments, but from a technical perspective, TPAB is probably the better record, and that's on Standard Black. This is Untitled Unmastered. This is basically the B-sides to Pimp a Butterfly. What's funny though is that the B-sides for To Pimp a Butterfly are still incredible, and you have an A+ album. It's not as cohesive. It really is just kind of like a jumble of the last recordings and stuff that weren't used on the album, and so it doesn't have like the great track listing, but still some crazy impressive moments from Kendrick. Production's insane, and still a great record to have. This is Damn, Kendrick Lamar. This used to be my favorite Kendrick record when it came out. I think it's still aged really well, but with time and my own maturity, I think it shifted to Good Kid, Mad City, but still a fantastic album. This was pressed on green. It's like forest green. It's a little bit dark, so I'm not sure if the camera's gonna pick that up. But it's the Target exclusive, and yeah, it's a pretty solid album. What can I say about Damn? Probably his commercially most successful album. But what I love about this album is, even though it was commercially successful, he won a Pulitzer Prize for it, for the writing, as well as, it does have some pretty conceptual songs, and the track list as a whole is also a little bit conceptual. So it's hard to be artistic in that way and have such creative writing and production and still achieve that kind of commercial success. You don't see that very often in a lot of music, so pretty cool. And then this is the last Kendrick vinyl I have. This is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, just on Standard Black. Easily Kendrick's most mature album. I mean, all his albums are pretty mature if you ask me, but this one is like a therapy session. I kind of am just rehashing what other people have said about it, but this exposes a lot of his own personal flaws and concerns and worries and anxieties. And the big take-home message is that, we've all put Kendrick on this pedestal for being like the savior of rap, and that's not what he is. He's a human being with flaws and issues of his own. So he really exposes himself here, and for a lot of people, this record was not the huge, exciting return that they were expecting. I think a lot of people coming off of Damn and then having a 5-year hiatus expected like some crazy banger album, And in my opinion, I was satisfied, but a lot of people did not get that with this album. So, still beautiful album. I don't think Kendrick's to this date ever put out a bad work, and this is not the exception to that. He definitely is still on a hot streak. GNX just came out last month. I have that ordered, but the pressing does not release till like February or March. So I'll be adding that to my collection later. It's just not here yet. This is the Black Panther soundtrack, and just pressed on standard black. Nothing too crazy about this. I don't really listen to this a ton, just because I'm not a huge soundtrack person, but the highs on that album are really high. There's some crazy hits. We get like X, or 10 I guess, with Future, of course All the Stars, Paramedic with SOB. I mean, there's some super great songs on that record. So it just feels like part of the collection, and with the amount of involvement that Kendrick Lamar and the TDE members had on it, I think it's a fun one to have, even though I don't always listen to it. Okay, this next one is the Melodic Blue by Baby Keem. Just pressed on standard black. A little disappointed with not the album itself, but with the packaging and the pressing. I feel like with this album cover and even the title being Melodic Blue, they probably could have done a little bit more with that pressing, and made it blue at least or something. But yeah, album's pretty sweet. I think Baby Keem has a lot of potential. I'm excited to see what he does next, and yeah, we'll hopefully get an album from him this upcoming year, 2025. We got the Carter 3 right here. This is the Vinyl Me Please edition. Go ahead and open this up. We've got the foil stamp right there, the back as well, and this is pretty nice pressing. It's 180 gram. I love a nice heavy record, and I don't know how well you can see, but it's kind of like this red and black splatter. This record was a 2000s classic, if you ask me, and so many bangers on here. I did not really listen to any of these songs till closer to high school, just because I was like 8 or 9 when this record came out, and I wasn't really listening to rap music at the time. But yeah, super good introduction to Wayne. I'd love to have Carter 1 and 2, and a few of his other records as well, but right now that's the only Lil Wayne record that I have. Here we got Drake, Take Care. I'm not a huge fan of Drake by any means, but Take Care is, I think, probably his most solid studio album, and there's a lot of bangers on here. This is when he, not to be controversial, but I feel like this is when Drake took his time a little bit more, and he had a lot more hunger. He was successful, but not the way that he is now, and so he had to push himself a little bit more. So I think that's why this record turned out as well as it did. That's on standard black. And then we've got, this is, if you're reading this, it's too late. This is Drake's mixtape. When this came out, everyone was kind of clowning Drake for being an R&B guy and a melodic rapper, and he said, piss off, I'm gonna drop a rap record. And that album is full of bangers. Alright, What a Time to Be Alive by Future and Drake. And this is one of those records that is really nostalgic for me. I don't listen to it very much, but when I do, it's kind of funny because I remember how many great hit songs it has. I mean, you start with Digital Dash, Big Rings, Life from the Gutter, Diamonds Dancing, Plastic Bag, Jumpman, 30 for 30 Freestyle. Like, this album is just straight heat, in my opinion. And it reminds me of, I think it was my junior, it was my junior year in high school when this came out. So a lot of exciting moments. I had my car at that time, and it was this shitty little Ford Taurus. I think it's like a 2000, and nothing about that car was cool. But it did have really good speakers, and I loved to play Jumpman when the bass kicked in because it sounded good in that car, or at least I thought it did. So, yeah, had to have that one. And then this right here is Young Thug's Punk. I love this album cover. Not necessarily the biggest fan of this album, but the album cover's pretty sweet. And this is on like a clear with pink splatter pressing. I don't know why I got this. I got this when it came out several years ago, and I don't even know if I really listened to it a ton then, but I've just kept it. There's some good songs on here, some enjoyable moments, and even though I don't go back to it, it's the only Thug album I have. So I haven't felt the need to really get rid of it either. So that's why I have it. I would have loved to get Jeffrey when it came out for Record Store Day earlier this year. But unfortunately, I could not get my hands on it, and I don't want to pay resale. So this is Tyler the Creator, Flower Boy. And I think this is a great album for a lot of reasons, but one of the big reasons why I appreciate this album so much is because it marks a transition in Tyler's music career, and I think you can really see, while this album itself is not necessarily a super mature album, I can see a mature reflection in Tyler's music, and he starts to drift away from like the shock value in his music and focus more on the artistic value in his music. So this is when you weren't weird if you started listening to Tyler on this one, but you might have been a little weird if you were listening to Bastard and Goblin. So yeah, that's kind of why I appreciate that album so much. What's cool too is lots of like car themes, and you know, obviously he talks about his sexuality, that kind of thing. Gets a little bit more personal on that record. So yeah. And then Igor was the follow-up to Flower Boy, and this record I think takes the cake as far as Tyler's best record. It's much more well produced. It's super experimental in the sense that I've never heard an album like this. I don't think anyone's ever done an album the way Tyler did Igor, and it's just very enjoyable through and through. Not only did he try something different and give us something unique, but he nailed it on the head as far as the creativity goes, and I definitely appreciate that. So this next one is also Tyler the Creator. We have Call Me If You Get Lost. Unfortunately, this is not the estate sale. I have not gotten my hands on that one yet. This is just the first version of the album. It's also on standard black. Continuing the trend of super strong albums, Tyler nailed this one too. This one's fun. It's got like a summery, tropical, traveling vacation vibe to it. Also a fun concept record, just talking about how he has a girlfriend and he's it's like this secret love triangle, and it tells the story of that, and you know, it makes for an interesting listen overall. There's some great moments on here, and I would say too, this marks his moment of return to just straight rapping. This is a rap album, 100%, albeit with great, unique Tyler production, lots of synth work, horns, that kind of stuff that we love to hear from him. So this is Tyler's most recent release. This is Chromacopia. This is on a green pressing. I'll just go ahead and pull this out real quick. This is a test pressing, so I'm pretty confident Tyler's going to come out with an official version of this album. I hope he does, because even though it's a test pressing and it's super cool, the audio quality is not that great here. And it's not the final version of the music either. And so I would love to get, you know, the actual album on vinyl at some point. I don't think I'll spin this very much, just because it is a collector's piece, and once we get the actual album on vinyl, it'll have better audio quality as well as the final version. There's some cool stuff on this though. There's a Playboi Carti verse that is on this but not on the full release. And then another song, I don't know what it's called. It's like Mama or Hey Mom, not Hey Mama, but it's something to do with his mom. Pretty cool though. It's numbered, number 84,000 something. And these are no longer being sold. So it was like a one-time thing. I'm glad I got it when I did. So, but yeah, that is the end of my Tyler collection for now. And this one is House of Balloons by The Weeknd. I'm just gonna go ahead and cover up that little part right there so YouTube doesn't give me any issues. This was the first in the Weeknd trilogy, and I will say it's probably my favorite of the trilogy. I also think it's towards the top of his discography. If you listen to The Weeknd now and you listen to The Weeknd back then you'll know two completely different artists. He's got the same voice, of course, but as far as the music style, it's much darker than a lot of his recent stuff, and he definitely has much more kind of crazy things going on in his music, I would say. A lot more drug and sex oriented, and this is like the most toxic version of The Weeknd probably that you'll ever hear. But that makes for good R&B music, so I definitely appreciate that. And this right here is Beauty Behind the Madness. This is on a standard black. Nothing too crazy about this. This was like the first Weeknd project that had songs that I was listening to. So I remember early in high school, we got songs like The Hills and Can't Feel My Face, like just kind of the mainstream bangers from The Weeknd, and that's what introduced me to him. So obviously years later I went back and got this, and yeah, it's got a lot of great music on here, and definitely is a good and important part of The Weeknd's evolution in terms of his discography. And this right here was probably for a long time my favorite Weeknd album. This is Starboy. I believe this is on a red pressing. We'll go ahead and open it up and see. Yes, it's red. It's like this really good transparent red. This one has so many great hits on it. I remember when this came out my senior year or junior year, I forget. But I definitely played a lot of songs in my car, and my wife also loves this album, so when she's listening to vinyl with me, this is like one of her first picks usually. But you know, Starboy, Party Monster, Reminder, True Colors, Sidewalks, 6 Feet Under, I Feel It Coming, Die For You, All I Know. You know, there's just tons of bangers on this, and that's not even counting the other tracks, which are also pretty great for the most part. So definitely appreciate that part of his discography quite a bit. And then next up, we have what's probably my favorite Weeknd project out of them all, and that is After Hours. And this is just on a standard black. Nothing too crazy about this one. Yeah, this one I think is great for a lot of reasons, but primarily the production is amazing. Weeknd was able to curate a track list with trap inspiration, 80s inspiration. It's very euphoric to listen to. I appreciate this on vinyl and I enjoy it, but this is like also a great headphone listen, and you can get quite a bit from it. So yeah, After Hours, The Weeknd, pretty great. And then last but not least in this crate, we have Dawn FM, and this is a great conceptual album from The Weeknd. We've got Jim Carrey, who's a radio host, and it's like going through the afterlife or transitioning to the afterlife, which is pretty cool. And again, a lot of like kind of euphoric, ethereal kind of sounds, very spacey, but also still kind of leaning into the 80s R&B, like trap vibe, which is like a pretty cool meshing of different genres. So I 100% appreciate that we got this album from The Weeknd. This came out in, I think it was 2022. So it's only been a couple of years, but I find myself going back to this one and After Hours probably the most out of all The Weeknd's discography, just because of how great it is as a straight through listen concept album. So his last album I think is coming out in January, so next month. And I am super excited to see how he concludes the trilogy. So far he's dropped a few singles. I really like Timeless with Playboi Carti, and there's one more that I liked from him that he released, but honestly haven't been the most impressed. Like, they're good. I'm hoping that the full album is a little bit more creative, but we'll see what we get. And yeah, even if he doesn't conclude on the highest note, we still have like 5 or 6 really impressive albums from him already. So but that concludes the second crate, so stay tuned and hopefully I'll have the other ones up soon.